upsetting stories, really giving us an idea about the way in which and the direction in which some of our institutions have gone. Sunduzi Municipality City Manager Lulamile Mapoloba has welcomed the conviction and sentencing of former Electricity Department foreman for 24 counts of fraud related to overtime abuse. The municipality said in a statement that the Pritam Sukraj had been charged for fraud amounting to about 74,000 rand. According to a court document, the matter was concluded on Friday the 22nd, and Sukraj is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, wholly suspended for 5 years on condition that he was not convicted of fraud or theft during the suspension period. The court ordered that he pay the amount of 74,397 Rand 92 in monthly installments of 2,500 until the amount is fully paid. Payment is effective from today, the 28th of February. Municipal spokesperson Ntobeko Mkhize said that the case stemmed from investigations by the Internal Audit Unit that started on the 2014-2015 financial year, in which 3 foremen, including Sukraj, were investigated for overtime abuse in the electricity department. Mkhize said another foreman, Riaz Paruk, was convicted and sentenced to 105 counts of fraud involving actual losses of 385,102 Rand 94 to the municipality and potential prejudice of 22,440,000 Rand 96, which was stopped by the Internal Audit Unit. A family of a pupil who was killed outside his school believes his life would have been spared had the school responded quicker to rush him to the hospital. But it took the principal of the Dinokaneng Senior Secondary School in Sebokeng, south of Johannesburg, about an hour and 30 minutes to have Tumelo Dwili, a 16-year-old pupil, taken to Sebokeng Hospital, some 6 kilometers away. Principal Zugiswa Ngalonkulu told their family that the law did not allow teachers to transport injured or sickly pupils to hospitals. After laying outside his school, bleeding for over an hour from a wound in his upper body, Tumelo was later certified dead on arrival by doctors on Thursday. During a visit by Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilwane, the Tumelo's family yesterday, his sister Lerato Juili said that he laid on the ground. The principal said she could not take him to hospital because she was forbidden by the law. In a WhatsApp message that the principal sent to Tumelo's father, the principal wrote, "I'm very sorry for your loss. Unfortunately, the law does not allow me to take any learner to the doctor or hospital. That's why I fetched you home." Lerato, who's 23, said her family was devastated by this incident. The principal called for the ambulance and we waited for 1.5 hours for it. My brother was taken to hospital in a private car organized by the principal. The ambulance came to the scene long after he died. My brother could have survived had he been taken to hospital quicker, she said. It's difficult. I've been raised through black tax, says Nick Mhlongo on Money. Nick Mhlongo is a Sowetan-born educator and editor, but primarily known best as a writer and travel journalist. Mhlongo graduated from Wits University with a BA degree in African Literature and Political Studies in 1997 and has gone on to become one of the South African best-known writers. He has written 4 novels and a collection of short stories about South Africa and an experience in 2019, a best-selling collection of essays called Black Tax, Burden, or Ubuntu. He has been described by the New York Times as the most high-spirited and irreverent voice of South Africa's post-apartheid literary scene. Mhlongo also won a mass of awards, including 2019 when he walked off with the Nadine Gordimer Short Story Award for his collection entitled Soweto Under the Apricot Tree. He says there is a career to be made in writing, as shown by the number of books and stories being adapted to film. It's not all doom within the fiction world, because we've seen that the moment 90% of the films that we see on Showmax, Netflix, and everywhere are adaptations of mostly fiction. The major thing that propelled me in 2006, he says, was when the New York Times wrote 10 pages about my work. It's difficult. I do attempt to put money away, but given my condition, also where I come from, it's difficult because I come from a poor family. I've been raised through black tax. I have to look after my siblings, he said. A shortage of university accommodation at UKZN has left students sleeping in corridors, classrooms, and hallways. This comes as students in Cape Town protest against housing and financial issues. The University of KwaZulu-Natal is struggling to accommodate students at the beginning of the academic year. On February 21, photos began circulating on social media of unhoused students being forced to sleep in university corridors, hallways, and even classrooms. Protest erupted last week, with UKZN noting in a statement released on the 23rd of February that incidents that appear to have been aimed at disrupting normal operations at some campuses. KZN EFF Student Command Inamandla Mabunda told a publication that students had been battling with housing for 2 weeks. Mabunda said that the students needed a residence placement and came from a disadvantaged background and that their need for housing was urgent. Lady Anne Glenconner had a 34-year affair with a mystery man. She says adultery keeps marriages together. Now this you have to hear. The 90-year-old socialite was a lady in waiting to the late Princess Margaret, who died in 2002 at the age of 71 and was maid of honor at Queen Elizabeth's coronation in 1953, but admitted that even though she had completely fallen for Colin Tennant, who the third Baron of Glenconner, she ended up having an affair when the marriage became difficult. She says Colin was attractive, he was funny, he was full of wonderful ideas, but just made me see that my life could be different. It could be a great adventure, and I completely fell for him. He was also a great friend of Princess Margaret, and he was one of the young men she went out with, and I was always rather amazed that he chose me, that he actually wanted to marry me, and a lot of the time we were happy. I had seen him lose his temper before we got married. He always said that the minute we were married, I won't need to lose my temper, which of course I believed. But he lost his temper on our honeymoon. His promise to not lose his temper didn't last long. I lost my trust in men when we saw each other once a week. She had lunch on the occasional weekend, but he gave me back my trust, and I realized that men can be wonderful, she said. Now, the Baroness, who remained married to Colin until he died in 2010 at the age of 83 following a battle with prostate cancer, claimed that the mystery man's wife was aware of the affair, but alleged that she was possibly guilty of adultery too, and she insisted that being unfaithful was how marriages were kept together. Don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it's interesting how some other people live their lives. 20 minutes now before 10. Seasoned financial journalist Sikonati Mantshantsha joined Eskom in January 2020 when he was appointed as the national spokesperson. In a statement announcing his departure, the power utility said Mantshantsha helped improve Eskom's public image by driving honest and frank communication in the media domain. He joined Eskom on fixed-term contract 3 years ago. Mantshantsha will leave at the end of February, which is today. Prior to his appointment at Eskom, Mantshantsha was Associate Director of the Daily Maverick and Scorpio and the Deputy Editor of the Financial Mail. He also hosted a weekly business report called The Finance Week that was a weekly finance report called the Finance Week. Excuse me, I lost my place. That was on Cape Talk. During his time as a journalist, Mantshantsha was known for being staunch critic of Eskom for its failure to keep the lights on. At the time of his appointment, the Eskom CEO, Andre Tereta, said Mantshantsha's appointment was a move towards cleaning up Eskom's public image. Eskom announced that Daphne Mukwena will take the role of national spokesperson on an interim basis.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's see what all the fuck is. From the states of Africa, we've got you covered.